Detroit blew the 2-touchdown lead, and they got a late field goal by somebody named Jake Bates. I don't know who that is, but he made a 32-yard field goal in the final minute of regulation, final half minute. The Lions then won the coin flip, and they matriculated the ball down the field. 8-play, 70-yard drive capped off by the Montgomery game-winning score. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. So the Lions get the win. Better story, though, in the losing locker room as the Rams go down from the Rams side of the aisle. From the Rams side of the aisle, are things the way things are right now for the Rams? Are you excited, frustrated, or angry, or all of the above regarding the loss? So the arrow on this one is pointing towards frustrating and excited. That's where the arrow is. I've got scissors and paste, pink bottle, and housefly. And we will combine all of these things together, and we will lay the foundation for this monologue. But the arrow is pointing towards exciting and frustrating, not so much angry, but the pundits dismissing the Rams as contenders this season in the NFC, and yet they storm back with a couple of big plays in the second half. They're down 2 touchdowns in a hostile environment against the Lions and made Detroit, as we talked about, make that late field goal to tie the game, go to overtime. Detroit in the NFC title game last year and woulda, coulda, shoulda won if they didn't keep going for it on 4th down. But that is encouraging. Now, overall, I would say I'm Benny Brightside when it comes to the Rams. But when you consider the Rams' offensive line, here's the main reason, right? A Rams' offensive line, scissors and paste job. You're playing backups. It's a patchwork quilt at tackle, all kinds of odds and ends put together there. And the Lions supposed to have this ferocious defense, and the Rams held their own. They did. And Puka Nacua left on a golf cart. You don't want to leave on a golf cart, right? Unless you're golfing. He wasn't. And the Rams defense, without Aaron Donald, how are they going to stop anyone without Aaron Donald? Oh, my God. And they only had one real meltdown, which was the Tre'Davious White blown coverage, the defensive back for the Rams, who's back. He was in Buffalo. Was a good player, and he's had a lot of injuries, and he got burned on a 52-yard catch and run for the Lions in that game. Now, the real frustration part is that it should have never come down to overtime. The Rams should have won it in regulation. They had possession of the ball. They got the ball back with about 4 minutes, a little over 4 minutes to go in the game, and they got only 1 first down. And they absolutely botched the clock on what turned out to be their final possession of the game, unable to convert more than 1 first down. There were questionable decisions about getting out of bounds, stopping the clock, and forcing the Lions to use timeouts. And so that's on McVay, right? Now, once McVay finds the synergy, the Rams will win around 9, 10, 11 games. They'll be in that same group they're usually in. And that normally gets you in the playoffs. So I didn't see anything from the game Sunday night where it's like, well, they're not a playoff team. In fact, I thought the defense, everything I'd read about it and heard about it from all these so-called experts, I thought the Rams' defense was fine. And the Lions' offense didn't really do much of anything. They had the late drive, and fine. Congratulations. Well, all right, now, we move to the other team in La La Land, a much ballyhooed debut for Jim Harbaugh as coach of the Chargers. He was victorious in a 22-10 game over Las Vegas. Better story in the losing locker room, though, so we'll focus on that as the Raiders get really one of 2 home games. The Raiders, when they play in L.A., they're more Raider fans in L.A. than Charger fans, or Ram fans for that matter. So they had a packed house of Raider fans there. How should Antonio Pierce, this is his first game as the permanent coach of the Raiders. He was the interim coach last year. His first game as the permanent coach. So how's Antonio Pierce feeling right about now as the Raiders go down to the Chargers in week 1? So Antonio Pierce, he probably should stop by like a CVS or a Walgreens or something like that. Pick up a pink bottle on the way home there, some Pepto-Bismol back to Vegas, because the Silver and Black in this game, suffering from bloating, gassiness, and then in the fourth quarter fatigue, which is rather embarrassing. It was a hot day. It was a heat wave in L.A. It's fire season, so it's got a good brush fire season here in L.A., and a lot of fires and heat and whatnot. But the Raiders play in Vegas. That is the personification of heat, and they wore down as the game went on. But that much like the Rams, the game was there for them, and they blew it. The Raiders, although it was different because they didn't have the lead late in the game, but 13 of the 22 points that the Chargers scored were directly off Raider miscues. And Gardner Minshew had not one but 2 turnovers, was sacked 4 times. Zamir White, who looks like an absolute beast, fumbled. You got to hold on to the ball. What are you doing? But overall, here's the crazy thing. Gardner Minshew had more impact plays in terms of side-by-side than Justin Herbert, who was yuck for the Bolts. And yet the Chargers won. They were able to run the ball, which is what Jim Harbaugh, he wants to win ugly, the big ugly. And the Chargers did that. And the Raiders, unable to get Devontae Adams the ball on a consistent basis. I think I only targeted him 6 times in this game. So that's just what Jim Harbaugh wanted for Antonio Pierce, though. I mean, man, you're going to have to win with your defense, and your defense, you had some guys kicked out. It was a hot mess. It was a hot mess there at the end for the Raiders. Now, the last word, we pivot now to the story everyone's talking about. I don't know about you, but I wake up right before kickoff. I don't watch the pregame shows. I don't need the pregame shows. I spend all week getting ready for my NFL Sunday. Plus, I do an overnight show. So I can't get up. I used to get up at halftime of the early games, but now I got to watch the whole game. So I get up in the morning there, and I'm like, all right, I'm kind of groggy. We head to South Florida here, and the Dolphins had a come-from-behind victory. They beat Jacksonville 20-17, unable to cover the spread. That's not the story, though. The story is what happened before the game. A very bizarre chain of events. Very bizarre chain of events involving cops and football players. The bad boys, what you going to do? I don't even know if that's the case. But you had star wide receiver Tyreek Hill, who said after the game that he played in the game, he was detained. He said he had no idea why police detained him before the Dolphins game, but there's video of it. And can you make sense of what happened in this situation? So I'm trying to process exactly what happened. There's not one consistent version of events. We do have the Tyreek Hill version, but we don't have the other side. And there are 3 sides to the story. There's the Tyreek Hill story, there's the cop story, and then there's the truth somewhere else in the middle. But I woke up kind of groggy, and then I saw the clip. I turned on the old phone there, and I saw the clip of Tyreek Hill being handcuffed and like a bunch of cops around him, kind of roughhousing him. And then I read later that the Miami-Dade police placed one of the officers involved on administrative leave. Is that just standard protocol? Is there more to the story? It's got to be embarrassing for the Miami-Dade Police Department. This is generally not what you're looking for here. Now, other Dolphin teammates intervened. And Calais Campbell said that he ended up in handcuffs also. So, and at least he was the only one that said it as far as I saw. Maybe I missed something else there. But we don't know if Tyreek Hill did anything wrong here or not. But what we do know is the track record, right? That said, we know the track record. And we've been doing this a while. And when you talk about police blotter in the NFL, the one common denominator has been Tyreek Hill. He's the common denominator. Now, maybe it's just really bad luck, and there's just like a cloud that follows him around, and he's an angel and a choir boy, and he does nothing wrong. That is possible. But from domestic violence to the benign, like the assault at the marina, remember that story where there was some money exchanged? Tyreek's like a housefly to dog poop with these stories. He's always in the middle of it. Is it just bad luck, or could there be something else? He always finds himself in the middle of these situations. And will this be anything? He played in the game. The Dolphins obviously don't think this is anything. They allowed him to play in the game. They think this is all nonsense. And we'll see how this plays out in the coming days and the coming weeks. And there'll be a lot of bureaucracy involved and people pointing fingers at each other and whatnot.